welcome to another of Rob's Strings and Things. So today I've got something a bit different. It's not a guitar, but as you can see and as you've heard, it's a banjo. It's not a kind of normal 4 or 5 string banjo, it's a 6 string banjo. Some people call them ganjos, but it's really a 6 string banjo. And it's from Harley Benton, and it's a BJ-65Pro model. They also make 4 and 5 string banjos as well. Just to say a little bit about it, I've had this for well over a year, maybe 2 years now, and I play it from time to time. I really like the sound of the banjo. It's a fantastic sort of propulsive sound for driving along a rhythm, etc. It's also a very loud instrument as well. So it can be a bit overpowering against some other acoustic instruments. Anyway, just to tell you a little bit about it, it's got a solid maple body. It's got a NATO neck. NATO is Eastern mahogany. It's got a blackwood fretboard, Pinus radiate. Or radiati. It's a Monterey pine actually. It's probably been baked, I can't really tell actually. And the fretboard has got mother of pearl spade inlays, which I've got a little picture showing you there about now. Anyway, so the fretboard's very nicely. It's got 22 frets. It's got a very long fingerboard. And the scale length is about 665 millimeters. It's got a graphite nut, which is kind of interesting, and the nut width is 43 millimeters. So it's kind of like the width of a standard kind of electric guitar. It's got a floating bridge down here. It's made of maple, but it's got a blackwood cap, which presumably is kind of a harder wood than the maple underneath. The colour, it's a kind of dark cherry finish. The head on it is like a drum head. It's a Remo head. As I've just pointed out, it's got a detachable resonator on it, and I'm going to take that off in a little bit and show you the difference, or have a listen to the difference in sound that makes. And also you can see the inside of the banjo. Okay, so it came with the original kind of guitar strings. I think there were 12 to 52s, sort of bronze or phosphor bronze strings, quite a bit corroded. And it was tuned obviously to a standard guitar tuning, as you kind of expect really. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that tuning, and is that really good tuning for a banjo? I don't think it is, and I'll explain why in a bit. Really good value, fantastic value in the UK right now, which is in 2020, October 2020. It's 179 UK pounds, which is about 197 euros in current exchange rates, and 232 US dollars. And then on top of that, you're going to need to pay postage. So here's some thoughts about this banjo. First of all, it's a really nice instrument, really nice, beautifully made instrument. It's certainly heavy. I weighed it. It's about 5 kilos, so that's pretty heavy. It's heavier than, say, for example, a Les Paul type guitar made of solid mahogany. I mean, why not? I mean, there's a heck of a lot of metal on this. So really, you need to have, if you're going to play it standing up, of course, you've got to have a strap. And in fact, if you're going to play it a long time on your knees, I suggest that you have a strap around your shoulder too. This is the strap that I have here. As I said, it's very loud, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how to mute this banjo sound, particularly if you're playing with other instruments. It really can dominate. I mean, I sometimes play with sort of like a workshop, a folk music workshop, with other instruments, guitars and violins, etc. And the guy who runs it, great guy, would rather I didn't bring it along, because I think it really can dominate, but I got a way of fixing that. Pretty good tuners on it. Okay, it's got lots of different adjustments on it. So it's got a floating bridge there that floats over the Remo skin. It's got a truss rod in the neck here. Obviously you can adjust the head, the tension on the head here, on the skin here, and I'll show you how you do that when I take the resonator off. It's got inside here, as I'll show you a bit later, it's got dual coordinator rod, which can help you just subtly adjust the neck angle. And of course, as I said, you can take the resonator off if you really want to. Just some issues with it. Well, the frets were a bit sharp. I can feel them here now. Could do with a polish. It's not a really seriously badly fretted, but it just needs a little bit of a polish, which I've already done on this instrument. The strings supplied, as I said, no particular brand I know, or not. They're not talked about actually in the specs from Harley Benton, but they're also a bit tarnished. And I have to say that the sound with the standard guitar strings and tuning, really, I didn't like it at all. I thought the first 3 or 4 strings sound great. They sound like a banjo should sound. When you put those 2 lower strings on, the lower E and the lower A, they're very dull. I mean, maybe it's the quality of the strings, I don't know, but it just doesn't sound right at all. I think really the tuning could be quite a bit different, and of course there are many different types of tunings for guitars. But what you have, if you like, with the 5-string banjo is on the uppermost string, obviously it's a short length string and it's high, so it's a high note. So as you play across the string, you're going from high at the top to high at the bottom, with the intermediate tones in between. And that produces, in my mind, the classic kind of banjo jangly sound. In my view, you may differ, but in my view, you really don't need those really bass strings. It just doesn't sound good at all. So what I've done is to develop a different stringing, and I'll just play you these notes for you, okay? Because in fact the note values are the same, but they're in different octaves to those which you'd normally find on a standard guitar. So I have here, if you like, the top string, the uppermost string, is the same as the generally the first string of the low string here. So it's both, and the below it. So the top and the bottom strings, if you like, are the same note, E. And then the next string down, if you like, the 5th string, standard's 5th string, but the next string down as you look at it, that's an A again above the standard A that you'd normally get. So this E is 2 octaves higher than the standard guitar tuning, and this A is an octave higher than the standard guitar tuning. Then the rest of the tuning is the same, D, G, B, E. And this produces this nice kind of jangly sound. Okay, so that sounds really like a standard banjo. You've got that kind of alternation between high, low, mid, high, etc. Produces a really nice sound. So I put a little table up with that tuning in as compared to the standard tuning, and that's coming up about now. Okay, so there it is. So as I said, lots of adjustments on this thing. Really loud instrument. To get the resonator off, well, the resonator is held on by four screws around the edge here. So there are 4 screws around this edge here. One is here, for example, so you can just see that. I don't know if you can see that one there. And all I need to do to get the resonator off is just to take off. There are 4 screws to take off. Now I've already taken 2 off in advance of this, just to cut down a bit on the time, but you can see it just takes very easy to come off here. Quite a long thread, as you can probably tell. There it goes. That's that one, and there's a one obviously at 180 degrees on the other side. When I unscrew that, normally, as I said, there'd be 2 others at 90 degrees to these, but I've taken those off already. Just about done that one. There we go. So now the resonator will just come off. So there we go. There's the resonator. There's the resonator there. I'm not quite sure what that's made of, but obviously it's got a very nice wooden, probably a veneer back there. This is obviously some kind of, I don't know if that's wood. It doesn't feel heavy enough to be wood, so it's some kind of composition material. So anyway, so we can put that to one side now. And now you have, if you like, the guitar without the resonator on, and you can see a little bit more about what's inside it. So as I said, here in the center here, there's 2 coordinator rods here, which can adjust the angle of the neck a little bit. It's not something you really want to do a lot of. And then obviously the other thing about this is that you can then, one of the things you'll notice about this when they're playing is there's a lot of downward pressure with the strings on the bridge onto the skin, onto the Remo skin. And in time I found that gradually started to push it down, push the skin down, pushing obviously the string fret height here down till the point where it started obviously to not to give you clean tones. But around the edge, if you like here, there are individual bolts. I don't know if you maybe you can see them there. They're individual, whole series of bolts. And if you tighten these like you tighten a drum, just a little bit first there, then on the opposite one, and just go round, you can gradually tighten up the skin. And when you tighten up the skin, first of all, if you loosen your strings a bit, obviously this will then help stop the bridge pushing down on the skin. You can also, obviously these are the strings are anchored at this end. And there's an adjustment bolt here at the end. You can just turn this bolt, and this will actually alter the angle of this. And if you're not careful, you need to just adjust it so that this, if you like, the anchor here for the strings does not push down on the head. One other nice thing about this instrument is obviously you've got a rest here for your arm or your wrist when you play it. So there it is. Now I'll just play a few notes on this. I don't know if you're going to hear much of a difference, but obviously without the resonator on, it's not quite so loud. So. Now obviously I'm playing that with my fingers as well. That also helps to mute the strings down. It can be muted further, and I was at a local folk club listening to a couple who were playing banjo and guitar on some of the things that they were singing, and I was right in the front row listening to the banjo player, this lady playing it, and she had it was a really lovely soft touch on the banjo. So in the interval I asked her, I said to her, so you've got a fantastic soft touch on the banjo. How do you achieve it? And she said, oh, well, that's easy. She said, and she turned the back of the banjo around and pulled out a whole lot of knickers. She said, so if you put some sort of cloth in there, that will mute the sound again. Well, I've refrained from putting in my wife's knickers. I don't think she'd kind of like it, really. But what I have used is a rolled up cloth here. So we'll just stick this in between the two coordinator rods across there. There we are. So it's just lying in there now. And I'll just play that and see if that sounds a bit more muted. Well, to my ear, that's clearly muted, and that's actually the way that I normally play it. Normally play it with recorded for recording, or if I go out and play it, I'll have my pseudo knickers stuffed into the pot here, which is what this is called. So there it is. So this is the Harley Benton 6-string banjo, BJ-65Pro. It's in stock, as I think had a good look, so it's still in stock. What I would say about it is, if you're a guitar player but you love that banjo sound, well, obviously, if you're not lazy like me, you'll get yourself a banjo and learn to play it. But if you're a bit lazy like me, then you'll buy yourself one of these or another make. But this is fully recommended. A beautiful instrument. I haven't shown you the headstock here, but just look at the headstock there. Obviously very nice laminate of some kind of applied shape on their headstock. Good tuners, stays in tune amazingly well, considering this is a skin. It stays in tune. So if you're lazy like me, the lazy guitarist, want to have a banjo to play, to record in, or whatever you want to do with it, get one of these. I thoroughly recommend it. Standard Harley Benton quality. I think this is about the 5th or 6th Harley Benton guitar type or instrument I have, all to be thoroughly recommended. So thanks very much for listening to this rather long video, and I hope this gives you some thoughts about the next instrument you're going to get. Okay, bye for now.